I don't remember this, so I'm curious to hear too.
Uh, so I was sitting when this was before we moved into our new space. Uh, and I was just sitting one day, and so I was already chief of staff. So this is within the last couple of years. And a corp, let us just say we were still in 1DQ, we hadn't left yet. A corp was kind of hacking me off, and I'm just like, okay, it was with the structure. It's like, all right, you guys, they were leaving. Um, where they went, not important. They're not still there because fuck those guys. For those people who are in the know of this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't, it's okay because they're not around. We don't care about them anymore. But they're sitting there and they're leaving, and they don't want to remove this structure. And I'm just like, okay, well, either you're going to remove it or we're going to have to kill it. They're like, okay. And they didn't do anything, didn't do anything. And I finally gave them this ultimatum like, all right, here's the deal. Either this is removed or I am going to go and shoot it. And so they didn't want to remove it. So I pinged Ultra. I'm like, dude, you remember these guys? And he's like, yes. I'm like, they still haven't removed that structure. He's like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, so I'm going to ping a fleet and go and kill it. He's like, what are you taking? Are you taking supers? Are we going to be Titans? Are we going to do caps? I'm like, dude, I'm going to do torp bombers. He's like, no, fucking supers. You remember this, Altaria?
I remember now.
And it turned out that I told him, I was like, okay, I'm going to give him like 12 hours because it was like 10:30 at night. Um, I think on a Friday, so we're going to do it like Saturday during the day or something. And it's like, cool. And I get up Saturday morning and I'm doing like the happy jig dance over to my computer. I sit down and they had removed it. They had started the unanchor sequence on it. I'm just like, you fuckers. Um, and Altroy was bummed too, but yeah, we it was the funniest thing. It's just like, no. Uh,
um,
yeah, so that was a fun time.
Local llama form, llama form.
All right, roger that. Guys, there's a thing that's about to go on in a place with a person, so if you want to go and do that thing when it comes out, which should be in just a moment, you're welcome to do that. Um, I'm gonna sit here. If you guys want to listen into it, you still can. For those of you guys who are working and cannot do the thing that's about to come out, that's totally fine. For those of you who want to jump over to it, I totally get it. It is a pew pew thing, so that's going to be coming. And yes, I'm being very vague because I know who's going to be forming the fleet, but I actually don't even know what the objective is. So, given all that vagary, there's the ping. Yep, there's the ping. Oh, no, that's a different ping. All right, apparently there's a second ping about to come out. But, anyways, guys, if you want to go and do that fleet stuff, it's all good. I'm going to sit here and uh, keep kind of doing the history stuff for a little while just because it's kind of our plan, but it's up to you guys. Yeah, if you guys need to jump out, I totally get it. Um, so, is there any kind of prompt for a story that you all would like to hear? There is the listen command if you guys want to do that as well. It's if you're looking on Mumble there, it's what those ears are. That's somebody in a different channel who's listening to this. You can absolutely do that.
I don't know if you have any stories about this, but seeing as it's on at the moment, any Alliance tournament related stories?
So I've never been in the Alliance tournament. I used to, I'll admit, I used to watch them. They were a much bigger deal about 15 years ago, kind of towards the beginning of my Eve career with it. Uh, One of the funniest Alliance tournament ones we had. I don't remember what year this was. It's been quite a long time ago. The match we actually had the Mittani in it. He was flying on the Mittani. He was actually on the Mittani. That was the character that he was flying in as. The vast majority of people know, right? You generally don't just have one one account with one alt. Most high level FCs and commanders don't do that. So he was on the Mittani, and the enemy never fired a shot at him. They never fired at him because they knew, and I'm trying to remember what he was flying. I think he was flying, it's a cruiser or battle cruiser, but it was one of those that you could like brick tank the shit out of. And so it would have been, an insane amount of damage it could absorb. And they go through, they never fired at him, never fired at him, never fired at him. Turned out he had no tank on it at all. It was pure damage because the team bet that everybody would assume that he would be the damage soaking, uber tanked kind of a guy. And they glass cannoned this cruiser or battle cruiser with it. And he was just running around just popping people with it. No tank on it at all. If you looked at it, it would have died. So you get fun
Wasn't he
things like
polarized?
that. That's a good question there, man. And I don't honestly remember. It's been too long since he did it. So possibly, I don't remember when the polarized weapons came in to when he did this. So if they had been introduced before, I'm sure it was polarized. I'm too fuzzy on those dates now, man. But it was, because it was before he left. Everything was before Vietnam, right? So this has to go back 6, 7, 8, 10 years, something like that. I don't know those dates well enough. For those of you who are not familiar with it, a polarized weapon will reduce your damage resist to 0. So if you put a polarized gun or launcher of any kind on a ship, your things like shield extenders, armor plates, those still work. It's just an HP increase, right? It's just a number of sheer HP. So plates, shield extenders, that stuff still works. But resistance modules don't do anything. So it makes your damage output much, much higher, but it means you can't really absorb too much damage with it. It's basically the exact opposite of an ADC, the assault damage control, right? Pops your resistance up really high. Polarized weapons reduce it to 0. But again, they don't reduce the entire like damage ability of your ship to absorb it, right? Your hit points don't go to 0, but the resistances go to 0. So plates, extenders still work. See, question in fleet here. So last time you felt like a normal line member, or has it ever changed? That's a good question. It's been a long time for me since I was a regular line member, going on 10 years now, something like that. Depends on how you define like regular line member. So, and I'm gonna couch that with a little bit, and I'll explain to you why I'm saying that. If I go back to when I had no roles of any kind, it's been over 10 years since I was that way. That would have gone back to about 2014, I want to say. I was made the SRP guy for my corp. Not Karma Fleet. Karma Fleet didn't exist at that point in time, as we know, it wasn't part of GSF. The fleet, the corp itself didn't exist. The people who were in it, people like Marconius and Merc, a couple of the other high-level guys, they were playing E, but they were part of Brave at that point in time. But Karma Fleet didn't exist. And so I was named SRP guy of WeDot back then, so 2014, 2015. From that point, I've had space roles of some kind, whether directly in my corp or mostly in the Alliance. A lot of people don't believe me, but I have no roles in Karma Fleet at all. I have none. I have absolutely 0. All of the roles that I do are alliance based rather than corporation based. And so you will get leadership who is one or the other, sometimes both. There are people who are corporation CEOs or directors and alliance directors. I am not. I'm an alliance director. So the last time I was truly a line member, if you follow that definition, man, is 10 years ago, in that neighborhood. Having said that, when I was SRP guy, it was the easiest thing ever because my corp was a bunch of bitter vets with a ton of money. They didn't apply for a whole lot of SRP, so I would process like 2 or 3 ship losses like a week. It was nothing. So in that sense, I got an extra couple of years before I was named chair of classes when university did that with me, and that was about 2017 or so. So it's kind of up to you on how you define those two terms. Oh, hope that makes sense there. Crowd, that's a good one. I had somebody message me with another question, and theirs popped in just before yours. Give me 1 second to look at their question here. So this is a good question here. So this is all about HR, managing people. Crowd, I'll get to yours here in just a second. So, so man who messaged me on Discord there, I don't know if you want me to say your name because it's usually different than what you've got in game. So I'm just going to read your question there. So, how do I manage dealing with the sheer diversity we have in our alliance? Does it ever get challenging on a human level? Yeah, it does. The biggest challenge is, well, the biggest challenge and the greatest reward, honestly, man, is the diversity that we have. We have people from all over the world. I mean, literally all over the world. If there's a country that's got an internet connection, we've probably got a goon or somebody in the Imperium from it. Now, again, primarily my role is with Goonswarm itself. Yes, I do deal with Imperium policy kind of things, but my primary role is an internal Goonswarm thing. And one of the fun pieces is that we've got people from all over the world. Mitten said this years ago, that if you need a goon that's got a real life skill, like some job that they do or some certification that they've got, if you send an all ping to everybody saying, hey, I need help in real life with, insert whatever it is you're trying to do, there is one of you all nerds who knows that, who's got a degree in it, who's got a specialization in it, it's a certificate. They've done it for years, right? They're model makers, they're carpenters, they're mechanics, they're vets, they're all of these kind of pieces. They may be in another country. Their rules might be a little bit different than what it is, especially when you're dealing with certain aspects of our modern culture. But that's been one of the funnest things is, you got something that's like, oh yeah, I used to do that, or I do that as a hobby, or that's what I do in my real life. That's what my job is. So all of those perspectives is so much fun. If you need it, we've got somebody who does that. One of the hardest pieces is not even language. There's so many translating systems out there. They're getting, not terrible. Google Translate was horrible for so long. It's not so terrible anymore. It depends on the language you're trying to do. But is also time zones and is cultural. So I'm an American. Most of the Alliance Directorate is. We've talked about that a lot. Asher's said that so many times. Mittens used to say it all the time as to, why is so many Americans in the Directorate? There's a couple of explanations that have been offered with it. We've tried for years and years and years to get more non-Americans into the Directorate, and we just have a really hard time with it. The most common reason for it, or explanation, I guess, it's probably not the right word, just the most common reason that we get told as to why they don't want to do it. Very similar to getting non-native English speakers into the FC group, is they're afraid that people won't understand them, right? That your accent will make you hard for other people to understand. I mean, there's a little something to that. Having played EVE as long as I have, my real life work for many years dealt with internationals, mostly from China and from India. Did that for many years. Your guys' accents aren't that bad. I mean, for the most part, I don't think you'll find them that bad with it. Most of us would understand you pretty easily. So if you're worried about that, I mean, I can't guarantee without actually talking to you, the individual person, but I think the odds that it would actually be an issue is pretty low. Yeah, so they can be, but I've met Americans that I look at and I'm like, what the fuck did you just say to me, man? That's accents with any any group, and they're all Americans, right? There's some of them like there's one state I don't want to throw them under the bus. There's one state in the U.S. I look at them like, are you kidding me, dude? What the hell did you just say? But so there's that piece. I hope that answers your question there for it. So it's really interesting in terms of how many different things we have that goons actually do. And like I said, you'd be amazed. Like if you come up with what you think is the most random ass question. Remember, there's more than 10,000 of us. When we do an all paying, right? There's more than 10,000 goons and Imperium, all those kind of pieces. We've probably got somebody who does or has dealt with or knows the answer to whatever your weird random question is. I had a guy actually message me, this was months ago, who was asking about how graduate school worked because his significant other was having some problems, was having some issues with their degree, and they were an American, so they wanted Americans' approach on that because, of course, European schools, right? Different schools in different parts of the world do these programs differently. And it turned out that I had seen and been involved in a case almost exactly like what he described. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what they need to do. They need to talk to this person, this person, this person, right? I don't know what their title is at that university, but you got to find the person who does this thing. And it was just because that's my life. I'd been through that myself. I'd seen it. Didn't happen to me, but it happened to a really close friend of mine. So you get all that kind of fun stuff, but then you also get cultural differences. Americans have a reputation, and it's fairly well earned, of being a little more abrasive in how we speak. That can be a problem. Some people think it as a hostile, arrogance, and they're just being a dick. Yeah, they could be, because some people are dicks. That's all there is to it. But it could just be that we're more direct than different cultures. All right, that was a big wall of text speaking for you, man. I did see your note there. I'm glad that helps. Cryo. So, what's the biggest oh shit moment in Eve that turned out to be good? I've got two of them. Well, I mean, there's been a few of these. I'll go back to Vietnam when. So this would be 21. So 2021, right? So we're at the end of the war. We're getting towards the end of the war. Just 1 second there, guys.
Hey,
Look,
we're all done for the day, I believe.
Sweet.
So if you want to ping it out again, I wouldn't. Yeah.
Look,
Okay.
I think it's fine. I'll try. It's all good, man.
Okay. I'm gonna listen in.
Sure, no worries. So Aldroy just jumped in. I'm going to tell the story. Aldroy, I know you were there. I don't remember if you were actually truly involved with this or not. We're talking. So the question in Fleet was, what was the biggest oh shit moment in Eve that turned out to be good? And so I've got a couple of them. One of them that was just so incredible. We were still living in 1DQ, right? Horde, NC, PL, everybody was in T5Z, literally in T5Z. And we've got a form up. All of a sudden, this random scout chimes in our scout channel and just goes, the T5Z Keepstars on anchoring. And we're like, what? No, it isn't. And none of us believed him. Like 20 recons, FCs, directors, everybody who had a PH alt who was in T5Z, we all logged them in. And we all got eyes on this Keepstar, and we're like, Jesus Christ, it's actually happening. We were stunned. Everybody was just stunned with it. And that marked the end of the war. That one piece right there, because at that point is when we all realized that we had won and that they were leaving. The war did take weeks longer to finish conquering or reconquering Delve, right? We called it the Reconquista.
Can I interject?
Get rid of all their stuff.
That was that moment. There was a lot of it was disbelief and like, oh, what's actually happening? Wait, are you serious? that's not true. We checked, we verified, and it was like, oh shit, we got to stop that.
Yeah, none of us. I mean, I remember when that happened. We were sitting. There was some fleet. I don't even remember. Sunray, I say you joined us in here. I don't remember what was going on. We were doing. There was some form up. There was something happening, and
The
so we were.
last push.
Yeah, we were all around. We were all like, okay, there was a thousand people like in our command, not in command, but like 1,000 people on our comms. There was like 3 fleets going on. Like everybody was here. Um, I was
That
still. Yeah, go ahead, Sonny, man.
I remember kind of the stuff leading up to that was pretty interesting. The kill mill for that Tower of Legends was actually the first time I went on a fleet in Imperium. That was basically right when I joined up.
Oh, was it? I didn't realize that, Sonny. It's one of those things that I've known you for so long. We worked for so long in so many different parts of the org. I thought you'd been with us longer than that.
No, I wish I had though. I was Gurgoons for so long, and once I actually joined up in Imperium, I did so like kicking and screaming the whole way because my corp drugged me into it, and I'm like, this fucking sucks. I didn't want to be here, and it turned out to be the best thing ever.
I do remember
We
that.
rescued him from Lawn.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do remember that, Sonny, that you've told me that story before, but I thought it had occurred earlier in time. But it was just insane. We were all sitting there looking at just like, are you? No,
So
that
we
that
were formed up
can't be
with
true.
Baltecs, Feroxes, Caps, Supers, and Titans, and
Yeah, we had
Pappy
everything.
was pushing the 1DQ system.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so we had everything. Like yeah, it was. I remember that because everybody was online. Uh,
We had
and
all hands on deck. I mean, when I say all
yeah,
hands, I mean command channels was 200
exactly.
people alone.
Yeah, it was everybody. And that comes in on the scouts. I don't remember who said it, but one of the recon guys who was monitoring the scouts like shouted over global, "What the hell is this?" And you hear just this pause in the global command, and dozens of people are logging in PH alts to look at this. I was one of them. I did it too. We all did it. We're like, "Oh my god, this is actually happening." Um,
I don't think I can express the feeling that I had that day of like utter disbelief, utter success, and then oh shit, now we have a lot to do.
we had so much work. I know. Me too. I looked at it and I'm just like, "Oh, oh man." I mean, fuck those guys, but we had so much work. Um, I, Another one that turned out to be good. So, say more. This is well before this point in time. They were trying to push into. So we weren't in 1DQ, but they were doing the Asbel drops. Um, and I was sitting, and I will admit to you all, when I did this, I was multi-boxing too many alts. I had too many alts online. It's my fault. But I was gunning the old iHub. Fortizar, I had the Fortizar that was on the gate. I don't remember which gate it was, but it was leading out of the constellation. And this is when the Keepstar in 3 Tac D wasn't on the gate grid. That was an old crab star. And it was in the middle of freaking nowhere. And so we're sitting there, we've got formed up, we've got caps, we've got everything going on it. There's all these kind of pieces, and I'm on the grid on that Keepstar, and whoever's gunning it is just foobarring it up, right? They're not paying attention. The enemy's warping in, they're hitting stuff. The Ansiblex was on that grid at the time. They're hitting stuff, they're doing all these kind of things. Uh, and I get mad and I shout on global. I'm like, who the fuck is gunning this Keepstar? What the hell are you doing? And somebody who was in the Keepstar checked to see who the gunner was. It was me. It was my alt who was gunning that Keepstar.
Amazing.
But what had
That's all.
happened is I had so many alts online. I had 3 or 4 recons out on different grids. I was gunning the iHub Fortizar in 1DQ. I think I was doing the Theta Star Keepstar. I might have been doing McMahon Fist as well. I was in the fort that we had on the gate grid there in 3 Tac D. And I just forgot that I was the one that was sitting in the Keepstar in 3 Tac D until somebody, and it was like Sopleb or Delta Flux, somebody like that, as a high level GSOL or recon guy, because you have to have special roles to be able to see who's gunning it. Said the name of the alt, and I was like, shit. So, and whoever it was happened to be in my command channel, and I told him, I was like, oh god damn it, that is my alt. And the command channel just started laughing, just like Ultra did just a second ago. And one of them, I think it was Sunru. No, it wasn't Sunru. I think it was Sopleb. Was like, dude, do you want me to take over that Keepstar? I was like, yes, please. So I jumped out of the gunner's seat, logged that alt out. I still had 7 or 8 or 9 alts on. Again, I don't remember. It was that some of those engagements were crazy, but it turned out to be good. That same Keepstar in 3 Tac D, we were doing an engagement. Again, it was an all hands on deck. This is a different time, but it was the same Keepstar. And the enemies out there, and this was when Keepstar Doomsdays would still hit subcaps. They don't anymore, but they did it this time. They're all flying around. We've got 2 or 3 of our fleets. Asher's out there doing one of his fleets, and Villy was actually out doing one of his. I'm sitting in that Keepstar gunner. I think you were there. I don't remember for sure or not. And
I was probably there.
yeah, and I just yell on the command comms because Asher was in a different command channel. I was like, Asher, pull those fuckers like 5 clicks closer because they were just outside of range. And he did, and I managed to get a DD shot into their Logi wing at like max range. I was at like 249 kilometers when I hit them. And I did some pretty severe damage to that Logi wing. But Asher was right there. He managed to pull them in. Villy saw it, as much as we give Villy a hard time as a fleet commander, he's not terrible. He was like, no, we're too close to that Keepstar. But when he swung his fleet away, like their AB or MWD was still on, and it pulled one of their Logi into range. And when it bounces, it doesn't care what the range of the Keepstar is. It bounces based on the range to the initial target. And so I bounced a DD into their Logi wing. That was pretty cool. I got a kick out of that. Asher even said on comms, he's like, damn, that was a good hit. So, that's kind of fun. Just kind of looking through M2, number 2 is amazing as well. I missed the first battle of M2. So the first battle of M2 happened. A lot of people, at least in the upper echelons of Goons, know that I was very sick that fall, so I had missed the first battle of M2. I was doing fighter bomber replacement for our guys for M2, so I was there subsequently to it, but I missed the first battle of it. There were some really funny...
M2 is where I got my wings.
Yeah. There were some really funny things. We had a silver ticket. I told the story before. We had a silver ticket. This was when somebody had a Super or a Titan that was in the bubbles. If you guys remember, the original M2 grid was just bubbled to hell, above and below the keep, because their fleets came in above and below the Keepstar. This guy reached out. Honestly, don't remember his name. Even if I did, I'd lie, but I truly don't remember what his name is. And said, hey, I will sell you my ship, because he was convinced it wasn't getting out of there. And he's just like, this is stupid. I've been here for over a week at this point in time, and every one of their quote-unquote breakout attempts had been a total failure. They did do a couple successful ones, but not at this point. I was like,
we used to log in right before downtime every day and Lance, where we knew people were logging into.
Yeah, and you'd fire not bubbles, but the energy
the Newt burst or whatever.
The Newt burst. Thank you. I was like, the energy dampeners. Yeah, the Newt burst, lances, everything like that. And there's a whole reason why Ultra can, we can tell you that here in a second. But this guy is like, I'm just done. I just want to leave. And we bought a ship from him. I'm pretty sure it was a Titan. Might have been a Super, but I'm pretty sure it was a Titan. And we did not give him full market value even at that point in time. We were like, hey, we're going to discount this, but we will pay you. And we did. And he's sitting there. We knew he was above the Keepstar somewhere. So it's myself. The Adge was absolutely still around at the time. A couple other recon guys were. And we're sitting there. The camp was still going on, so we knew the camp was there. We're all sitting on comms. There's like 6 of us hiding in one of the command channels. I don't remember which one it was. We're just waiting for it. This guy comes in and was sitting there. We start chasing him down with recons to knock him out of the bubbles. And we see this wall of fighters and fighter bombers coming from the camp, chasing him down. And it was the funniest thing. We're on global. I think it was the Adge who was shouting at whoever was running the gate camp, or whoever running the camp. There's like, pull those fighters back, do all this kind of stuff. And most of them did come back. A few of them kept going because goons. But we actually managed to knock that guy's ship out of the bubbles. We literally just rang him with recons because we couldn't get like Macarials is how you would normally hit a ship like that. You just ram it with a overpropped or plated Macarial to get enough, to knock it. We're using recons to knock this ship out. He jumped away, landed in 1DQ. We had an exit sign for him. He landed in 1DQ. Docked. We had set it especially to do that. He jumped out. We handed him a pile of ISK. I have no idea what happened to that guy. But that was funny. Aldrey, why don't you talk about the camp with why we were lancing and throwing
Yeah.
energy dampeners while I take a drink here so I don't die.
So when downtime happened for M2 Part 1, we had, and I could say this safely now because it's been 6 years, we had every location of every Titan that was on grid. We used probes to confirm their exact location, and we also had used locators to confirm they were still in M2. So there was groupings of Titans and groupings of supers and things like that that we were able to identify. So we would use nuke bursts from supers to, when they would log in, like we'd see local spike up a little bit, 10, 15. Nuke bursts would land in that location. Then they would land after trying to inject. So they would log in before downtime as the timer's ticking down so they can inject cap and be ready to jump out when they get escape. So we would have nuke bursts there for when they landed, any cap injection that they did was done. Like it was moot point. And then for the ones that logged in early, too early, they would be warping into lances from 10 to 15 different Titans at different places. So we actually got a Titan once, I think. I think we had a Titan and a super from that. But they would land, so their automatic warp from being logged out on the grid would land them landing in a lance. And we would wait till they landed. We'd activate our lances at a certain point. I don't remember what it is. It's been too long. And when their immunity to being touched, their invulnerability went away, the lances would start doing damage to them. So you got 15 lances on a Titan. That's still like it's a lot of damage. It'll kill it because they can't get repped while they're offline. So we did that for weeks.
Yeah,
Every
weeks
night
and
right
weeks.
before downtime.
And so what Aldrey just described to you is why we were doing that. So this guy that I was telling you to escape, he was above the Keepstar, and the majority of their heavy assets were below it. And so we weren't really throwing the dampeners and the lances up like that. It was almost always down because that's where the majority of them were. But this guy was above.
Let me break out MS Paint and I'll show you guys what the setup was like.
Okay, let me see. Okay, I think that's all the questions that we had in the fleet there. So again, I do have a fleet up if you want to type them in there. If you just want to ask them on comms, we can do that well. Archerari's MS Painting.
So that was the distribution of Titans and Supers from hostiles. So the Keepstar in the center, and then the lower group was going to be their largest blob. There was a couple hundred down there. And then on top was typically normally just carriers, but there was also some small groups of Titans and Supers up top as well.
Yeah, and so this guy that I'm talking about was up. It was like up, and it's been so many years. I think he was like directly above the fork and like back a little bit. It's been too long since we did that. But yeah, it was
So when I say we
funny.
had bookmarks of everyone, there was 5 different folders or so of bookmarks of Caps and Supers and Titans that we had their exact location.
Yeah, and you just get them with combat probes. And when
Yep.
you log out and when you come back, you don't land on the exact spot, but you're really close to it. So for like a frigate, that difference is a little more extreme. But for a super or a Titan carrier dreadnought, you're gonna land within a couple of thousand meters.
I was the FC for the Hectors and Dictor fleet, and that bookmark pack was basically my Bible. I could at that point tell you exactly where every Titan was and who it was.
Yeah, we did a lot of locators. That's something we actually did. We sat down. We had this huge sheet, a big Google Doc sheet, spreadsheet. Shocker, Eve nerds with a spreadsheet. We had this huge spreadsheet, and those of us who had locators sat down and we ran locators on every single super and Titan that we had confirmation was in the system. We had videos and screenshots of all these things. And we sat down and ran them all and we're like, are they still in M2? Because so many of the kill mails didn't generate properly. Like there are kill mails out of M2 that show there's no fit on the ship. Those ships did not jump into M2 unfitted. But the lag was so crushingly bad, even with tie-dye. That lag was so bad that the fits didn't load. And so when the kill mail generated, it's like, oh, this Titan doesn't have any modules in it. It did. It's just the kill mail doesn't show it, right? Because the system was under so much lag. And so we
I
weren't
think
sure.
like
Go ahead.
even up to a year ago, there was still Titans populating on Zkill.
That part I didn't remember, but I could totally believe it. Yeah. Like somebody gets pissed and everything doesn't come back. Yeah, it was. But we were running. It's like so we just say so. Ultrari's got his Phoenix there. That's a dreadnought, but it's like, is his dreadnought actually? No, we weren't running him on dreads. It was Titans and supers only. We didn't care about anything else. But it's like Ultrari's Leviathan. Let's just say, is he still in M2? It's like just run a locator on him. And this is a high sec or low sec agent that you can do this with. It's a standees thing. You get with missions. And you go out and you run it. Takes a couple of minutes. Pops back and it says, I found your scumbag. It actually says scumbag on it. It's pretty funny, a little email that you get from the Eve system. And it will just say what system they're in. And so we did that for hundreds of Titans and Supers, and it would say Ultrari Phoenix M2 or Ultrari Phoenix T5Z, like whatever their staging system was for it. Or some of them, it was really funny. You could tell they got potted because they're back in some high sec system. That was always kind of funny. Because that means that not only did their ship die, but they got potted as well. And they hadn't reset their clone because they were back in some high sec system. Which just sucks when that happens to you. That I know it's happened to all of us. It's just something you get to every now and then, especially when you're doing with an alt you're not super used to doing. I was flying one, and I'm just like, oh, okay. I was going to go and do some shub transfers. Wasn't paying attention. Didn't reset the alt to CJ because I thought it was in UALX. Turned out I hadn't reset it at all, and I ended up getting smart bombed one jump out of CJ, and that all ended back up in high sec. I was like, God damn it, it happens.
I made that mistake today too.
Yeah, I mean that was Aldray. That was mine from just like a couple of months ago. That was in like June or something like that. I was like, shit.
So we started
And of
pinging
course,
fleets
Delta's
today.
just laughing at me as I'm bitching about it because I had just done all these shove transfers. Like, well, you're on the way home, right? He didn't care that I got potted and was in high sec. He wanted to make sure I finished my job first. It's like, you suck, dude.
I was anchoring an Athenor and I was coring it, and fleets started going out. I think it was Hard Knocks or Laserhawks bumped me off of it, killed me, killed the core, killed all the rigs, and then they killed the Athenor that was uncored.
Damn, that's brutal.
I'm pissed. I'm pissed about the Athenor because I had 24 hours waiting for it, but
yeah, that's brutal. This is a good question here in Fleet. I'll give you my answer. I'll try a summary. You guys feel free to chime in as well. So the question from Opal is, do you think there's still big stuff logged off in M2 or is it all gone now? like in terms of like massive number of assets, it's gone. There's nothing to prevent it, right? There's no bubbles or anything like that there for it. In terms of some random guy who got into that situation is like fuck this and has like uninstalled Eve, yeah, I think the odds are good that there is something still there. Um, the only one who would know that for
I
sure
can
is
tell you for
CCP.
a fact that there's 2 Titans still logged off in M2.
Are they yours? No.
Nope. I know 2 people that quit Eve that were in Pandemic Legion that just left their shit in M2 and never came back.
Yeah, and so you get things like that, assuming I have no reason to think Altar is lying on that, or those people haven't done it, but that was a shit show from their perspective. We thought it was hilarious, um, and that battle too. Most people don't know that battle happened because the enemy wouldn't form something like harpies to deal with one of our skirmish commanders attacking something. Like our guys went out and hit something, and they wouldn't form like a harpy fleet to push them away, and that's how M2 actually kicked off. Most people don't know that. It's because they didn't form the equivalent of a skirmish commander fleet to push our skirmish commander away from hitting a jammer. That's how that happened.
I remember Asher, and there's a couple of us just kind of vibing around, and I just remember Asher going, "Well, I guess we're gonna do this," and then sign was lit and we jumped in.
Yeah, there was a fireside meta show with Asher and Brisk and Mittens and maybe Shines afterwards, or maybe it was Merc. It was Asher for sure, Brisk, Mittens, and somebody else did a meta show afterwards. And I remember very clearly Asher's like, I'd never been in this system before this night, and like, yeah, nobody had. Um, I actually had because it was a transit route. I had actually gone through it when I was scouting the area one day. Um, but yeah, it's like nobody had ever been in this system, and it became the largest, hands down, engagement in Eve's history. Um, and so somebody just asked in chat there, wasn't the new guy in an Atron that got the jammer paused? New guy, yes. Atron, I don't remember what he was flying, but yeah,
Jackdaws.
he was a brand new dude.
It was a Jackdaw fleet.
Jackdaws, okay.
I'm loading 20 accounts right now. It was a Jackdaw fleet.
But it was a new guy. Yeah, absolutely. And so they could have just formed like I'm just saying harpies, whatever it was. They could have done that from the equivalent of a skirmish commander. We call them skirmish commanders. And they could have just pushed our guys away because they were hitting the jammer in M2. Like it was our Keepstar, and they were trying to kill it, right? And if you guys remember, what they did is they slow rolled the hell out of that. So they would wait until you could anchor a jammer in it, and then under a jammer they would attack them. Because they told everybody in Eve that you can't kill a Keepstar without a jammer. Well, that's not true because we've done it. And we did it to them like 2 years later. But, whatever. God always likes to rewrite history. I'm sure you guys saw the ping about how, they were the first ones to introduce RNIs as a fleet PvP doctrine or whatever that phrase was that he used. That stuff was hilarious. Asher is just about, I swear to God, he fell out of his chair. Just like, what? It's the most ridiculous thing. But yeah, absolutely, man. It was a brand new dude who took that jammer.
When I shared that with Asher, he first off he had utter disbelief in the channel that I shared that ping with him in, and then he messages me. He's like, "You can guarantee that he wrote this. I don't want to assume it." Like, yeah, he wrote that.
Yeah, because we were talking about it in another channel there, and I went and got it like independently verified it. We all, again, like 3 or 4 of us did, and we're all like, "Oh yeah, it's right there." I linked it to him, like, "Yep, it's right there, 100%, man, full stop, it's right there." We're just like, "Oh shit."
What was the story from that one anyway? Did they actually use Raven navies like 4 years ago for one fleet or something like that?
We were trying to dig that out, and as much as we can recall, yes, they tried it and then didn't actually do anything with it. Then like a year or 2 later. We introduced it as a main fleet doctrine, and we've been running them for quite a while. And then they also did in the same ping with that. We didn't emphasize it too much. Asher mentioned it. We didn't emphasize it too much. The RNI one was the really funny one where they're like, "Oh yeah, maybe we won't use jackdaws anymore, and we'll do this brand new fleet concept of flycatchers." And we're like, seriously? He did both those in one ping. The flycatcher wasn't such a thing of him saying it was a brand new. They were the only ones running it. But it was in that same kind of tone, at the same kind of ping as the brand new, nobody's running RNIs except for us because, they've never met something they can't steal. Never met a fleet doctrine they can't copy and claim as their own. And by the way, their RNI fits are identical to ours. It's interesting how that works. I haven't even looked at the flycatchers, but the last version of their RNI doctrine that I saw, it was identical to ours. Okay, what other prompt or story time thing do you guys have? Okay. So Bane knows the answer to this, but I will say it. He typed in there, "Why are Corps taxing Alliance projects? Because CCP is dumb and that's how they configured it." So we can't change that. We've mentioned it to Zintage, and yeah, that's a CCP thing that we cannot change, and the Corps can't change it. So as much as I would love to blame the Corps, because never not blame the Corps for anything like that. That's not their fault. That's a CCP thing. So next question there was Jay Amazing the worst spyish incident? No and yes at the same time. It depends on like which group you were with. So was it the worst one to happen to us? Yes. Has there been others that were kind of equally bad, if not worse, to other people? Yeah. There's any number of them. The disbanding of Bob 15 years ago, actually closer to 20 years ago now, you could make a case was worse. That entire alliance was destroyed. The Judge incident occurred prior to that. You have the CO2 betrayal kind of piece occurred before that. We took control of a Keepstar, and Mittens went in and actually yoinked the same thing that Jay did. Yoinked the Cologne Bay out, but he did it properly. And there's actually a screenshot. He sent a ping out for it years ago with this that showed like 6,000 clones were destroyed or something like that. You can make of it what you will. The fact that the only time that the number, like the true damage, has been reported by CCP is when it happened to us. When we've done it to other people, they have not done it. You can make of that what you will.
There was also recently a scam where a full pile, I mean, what you win in the Alliance tournament, was stolen. So they stole almost 100 trillion ISK worth of ships.
Yeah, it's crazy. So from our perspective, happening to us, yes, it was the worst. After that, it gave me an excuse to tear some things apart as chief of staff and redo a few things that I had wanted to do. But it was the real reason that I could go in and just tear it apart and say, okay, this is fucking stupid. We're not going to do this anymore. Okay, the next two, Ultra, actually kind of for you and for Sunray. You guys are more qualified to answer these. I'm going to read them here. So our FC is happy with the content they're getting in the new home. Follow up on that is how this. Ultra, technically this is specifically for you, but what is your thoughts on how Goblins will react when/if we put more pressure on drones?
Give me like 2 seconds to get my miners warping, and then I'll answer that because I actually have some unique insight to it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously from an FC perspective, this move has been fantastic. Um, I think it's been really motivating for our line members as well. Nobody likes moving; that part kind of sucked. But now that we're here, I'm seeing just peacetime fleets of numbers that I haven't seen in years. We're getting folks joining up in like any doctrine that you ping for 40, 50, 60 dudes just to go jump across the border and start shooting stuff. It's been hilarious, like the number of horde pings that go out. You can tell that they're being a little fatigued, they're military folks at this point, just because, having to ping for the third time in an hour for one of our fleets who's gone out, just killed a bunch of stuff and come home. I chuckle just thinking about it, actually. And then those of you who are maybe aware of what we do in Gooniversity with the skirmish commanders and getting them kind of educated and build them up into a fighting force. We are holding a competition this month. We started it, I think it was even on the second Tuesday. So we were a couple weeks in before we even began for this month. So the skirmish commander that can do the most damage in fleets in the Spire and Ethereum Reach was basically, they're getting a prize. And the skirmish commanders, during peacetime fleets only, have done over 100 billion ISK worth of damage in the past couple weeks to Horde.
Which is, I know that number may not have context to you guys. That's a lot for skirmish commanders on peacetime kind of a things. That's a pretty good amount. that's a lot of pew pewing going on there.
So
yeah,
when you see I have a unique insight because I see a lot of internal to Horde stuff. When we were in World War B2 and we were in a Hell War, the mentality changes. It like the leadership, the coordinators, the FCs, the recons, your mentality changes because you're fighting for survival of your organization that you dedicate a lot of time to. Our war that Asher declared was we're taking its mother. That was it. And then it's a forever war. And we're currently in the forever war. We're sitting on each other's borders and we're slamming shit back and forth just to see what sticks. Yesterday's a prime example. Dragonfleet got 2 Boosh carriers and booshed off some of their capitals, and they warped down to the Keep Star and were defeated by that. They have the mentality that they're in a hell war right now, and everyone up in the command channel can attest that mentality is draining, and it drains you faster than you would. Like, you're going to burn out just purely based off being in that mentality. So they have this mentality that we are invading them. We're invading drones, that they're in a hell war and they're fighting for their survival. And they went immediately into a defensive, we're going to fight this out, but we're going to do it here. And they moved a couple times. We're just literally like, let's go have fun. So they're going to burn out, and I don't know what's going to happen when we actually do invade, if we ever do invade. I don't want to. The farming on the edges of our borders is great. I love sustainable farming.
I say Aldrari is a big believer in farm to table content there.
Correct.
Yeah, it's so from my perspective, like I'm not an FC, that's why I deferred that to Aldrari and Sonra. They're the FCs. I'm not. My path has been a strange one going through. I ended up joining skirmish commanders. I was an SC for quite a while, but I moved into recon, and so I worked with a lot of the FCs and doing all this kind of pieces, but I never advanced beyond that level just because I moved laterally into a different part of our military org with it. Okay, next question there. Is there a story time that Sherba would happen to Frat recently with the Keepstar and Athenor transfer?
Yeah.
Do you have something that's not OPSEC on that one, Aldrari?
Yeah, that one's pretty simple.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Quote unquote, and I'm just going to go with what the public story is, that a director got hacked and he transferred off all the assets and stuff. A couple trillion is gone. no one believes that internally to Frat or externally. We believe that the director / CEO or whatever decided that he wanted to just say fuck the game and quit. You also have to realize this kind of thing happens to Frat on an annual basis. Like Greed accidentally pulled the super cap upgrade in the system and nuked like 100 Titans. Like this,
That's
he
kinda
blew
funny.
up their Sov. Like this is very common for them.
It's one of those cases to where I was asked earlier about, how is it with all the people that we have? This is a cultural difference that you see here. Um, Not to put too fine a point on it, account sharing is by far more common with Chinese corps. It does happen to American corps and European corps, and whatever it is that's yeah. We're not saying it doesn't. It absolutely does. That's something that you do see. You see it an awful lot more in certain um, groups based on their culture because it's part of their culture zeitgeist is that they don't see that as an issue with it. And so, yeah, this does tend to happen with Chinese corps.
You'll see. I don't want to point fingers, but there's no org where you're gonna not have account sharing. And when you got 50,000 people and you're coalescing and you all have you have the same goal, it's gonna happen naturally. Obviously, we don't condone it by any stretch of the phrase, but it does happen across orgs, and that kind of shit happens. It does. I know that Horde have a Titan that they share. All their VG guys, they share a Titan across them. Luckily for them, it's never happened at that level, but they very much have the ability to just say "fuck you" and take all that shit.
Yeah, it's something that does occur. Yeah, it's something that there are CCP mechanics to report them. You can go in and do that if you think that's occurring. You absolutely can. It's like RMT when someone comes to me like a goon is like we'll throw Pharaohs under the bus because he told me he wasn't going to be here today and he's been here for a little while. So see Ultrari comes to me and says, "Hey, I think that Pharaohs guy is engaged in RMT." It's like, okay, we're not going to investigate that. We don't care. What we will say is Ultrari use the report function that CCP's got. You send that to CCP. You let CCP deal with it. Why? This comes up an awful lot. Why don't we deal with it? Because it just causes a witch hunt, and witch hunts are bad for morale because it
And
doesn't
it's not my
matter.
responsibility to protect CCP.
Yeah, it's because it doesn't matter what ends up happening. Let's say Pharaohs is completely innocent, never did it, totally good. Well, when you do that kind of witch hunt, everybody thinks he's guilty. Doesn't matter whether you come back and say 1,000 times he didn't do it. It was a false whatever. This guy, Altair is just a dick and doesn't like Pharaohs. It doesn't matter how many times you say that. Everybody's like, "Oh, that Pharaohs guy. I heard he was RMT." Doesn't make any difference with that. So, if you see that or think you see it, right? I will tell you, all of the directorate will tell you, what you do is you go and report it to CCP. They've got a report RMT button. It's on the support page. Uh, do it. It's their fault. Not their fault. It's their problem to investigate that. Uh, we don't deal with it at all.
And
It may be that we
not to
look
say
at
that
you.
we don't care about it. We encourage you, if you truly believe that they're doing it, go to CCP.
Yeah, report it. It's just we don't have the tools to do that. Uh, and it comes down and because people make mistakes all the time, right? We all make mistakes all the time. We're human. You look at something, you go, that 100% is this, and then it turns out, nope, it's not. Zavero says that I always bully him. Well, yeah, maybe. Hey, you showed up.
Sparrows? No, he deserves it.
Uh, so will we be moving again? No, we're not moving. See,
I'll quit fucking EVE Online before that happens.
I mean, I'm not going to say CJ is the forever home, but we're not moving from this. It's as annoying as it was, like for you guys as the line to move. for us as the FCs for the directorate, it's 1,000 times more. And we did it twice in 8 months. Uh, and not only we did it twice in 8 months, but then we were helping Brave move their stuff as well. So like we moved out of Delve, Brave moved into Delve. That was a bitch to do. Um, it was so funny. We were sitting, and I won't divulge our plans because OPSEC on them. I was convinced the entire military leadership was convinced that the enemy, when we moved out of Delve, were going to sit in 49U, FORTAC 07 in one of those two systems and just fuck with those move ops. And they never did. They never did. Now, not the first one. Generally speaking, you don't jack with the first move op because everybody is on guard, right? And there's a whole bunch of stuff. You wait for like the 6th, 7th, 8th move op when people are tired, like when Sniper's gone to bed and Aldrar is like, fuck this, I'm going to go touch grass. That's the move op that you hammer. They never did. They never engaged any of them. But we were prepared for it. We had so many plans and schemes to try and deal with it. And I have to admit, I was a little disappointed that I didn't get to use any of the plans and schemes that we put together because we put some serious effort into it and then they fucked off. I was kind of annoyed. I was happy that our guys didn't get ambushed and lose a whole bunch of their stuff, but I was kind of annoyed too that we didn't get to see if our schemes would work.
Yeah, I was a little annoyed with that too because they put a lot of effort into tracking down their fucking Sino alts and tracking down their fucking Titan or their dreads and
Yeah,
all that effort went
there
to
was a
nothing.
lot of people putting in a lot of effort behind the scenes and into these schemes and plans, but yeah. Um, the and as Internet Night said in Fleet here, so we moved right. So we're in UTAC-Q, moving into UALX, and then we moved from UALX into CJ, and we deliberately set this as we sat down and planned that move. We said we are not taking gates. We're not going to do it. We're going to use keep stars the whole way. Oh, sorry about that, guys. So we sat down and said, we're not doing this gate thing again. This is stupid. So we deliberately said, okay, here's where we're going. It took by far longer than you guys might believe to actually pick CJ as our final home. We were bouncing back and forth between a couple of them, and we came down to CJ because of the routes and the location for it. Yeah, there's historical piece of very founding of Goon Swarm and all that kind of thing in CJ. But the fact that you can go from one keep star to another and never take a gate, that was a very deliberate choice on our part. Because as somebody said there, Pharaoh said, we were all just like gun shy on doing it again. We didn't want to do it at that point. Opportunity presented itself for that. But yeah, we're not going to be moving that again.
Not to mention, Asher said it on a fireside, so I can say it here. We put a 200 billion ISK rig on one of these Sotios.
We did.
Something ridiculous like that, but we're not gonna just throw that away for no reason.
Yeah, it's in that neighborhood. We actually, I don't think, fuck it. If Asher said it, he made it. We actually put more than one of those insane rigs on there. The research
Fair enough.
tutorial in CJ, the Weasler University, that, I mean, we're not talking like Palatine value on that Satoyo because it's not that insane, but it's pretty crazy. We all sat down and looked at it. I did with Kaz. He and I were talking about it, and we're like, okay, do we sell this? Because we had multiple of these rigs. I think we had 4 of them. It's at least 3. I think it was 4. And we're like, do we sell these? And he and I went back and forth on it, talking with Angry, talking with Asher, talking with some of the other directors, Delta, everybody. And we're like, we came up with 3 options. 1, hold it in reserve for, a move to put it somewhere else. 2, ship it out to JITA and sell it. Or 3, install it so that you guys, the line, like our people, could have the best. Nobody really liked the idea of just keeping it in a can. We'd already done that for months because this was in 1DQ. We pulled it from Weasel University in 1DQ. It had been sitting in a can forever. We knew we weren't going to stay in ULX, so we did not use it there. What's the market like in JITA for these things? There's only a handful of people or groups who can afford to drop this kind of money on one of these T2 rigs. And they're basically all enemies of ours. Like, that's what it comes down to. So we really started looking at it, and we came down to the idea of, fuck it. Let's give our guys a reward. Let's show them something cool. And so we put on the calendar. We did a big thing where there was a 0 research index in CJ. I haven't looked at it in a hot minute, but I bet it's not 0 anymore. Plugged all that stuff in, and we're like, okay, we're going to turn this on after the fireside a few weeks ago. And we did that big party with it. But yeah, it's actually more than 200 billion there. I'll try because we put 3 of those rigs in there. 4.
It's
It's a lot.
That should tell you we're not moving.
Yeah, you say 50 billion research that day. Right? Yeah, a lot of people did. Oh, the CJ index, just like it was in 1DQ, just like it was in ULX, is always insane. I just haven't actually looked at it of late because I know it's ridiculous. I missed another question. Let me go back and look at that there. Oh, Pharos, yeah. So where did the name Weaselor come from? So one of our old finance directors, so a successor / predecessor to Kaz. So Kaz was around. First, Weaselor came a little bit later, but then Weaselor stepped down and Kaz came back. So Weaselor was kind of in between bookends of Kazner being finance kind of guy. Weaselor is the name of the guy who built that rig. So it was named in his honor because he's the one who built that rig. He got all this stuff. He paid for it himself. It's not an Alliance rig in that sense. And he donated everything for it. So it's named after him because of that. Yeah, so Internet, I like that. I'm just going through there. So if the rig is worth more than a Titan and we're not allowed to sell Titans outside the Alliance, then do not sell it. I like that. It is Titan-esque value. Yeah, it's in that
That
neighborhood.
rule is not because of the value of it, though.
Yeah, that's a totally different rule. If you go back in Eve to the old Northern Coalition, not the NC dot that's run by Vince today and Lady Scarlet, but the original Northern Coalition from just after the Great War, so 2000. Help me on my history there, guys. 2008, 2009, when the original Northern
2009.
Coalition fall.
Yeah.
Something like that. Those guys were idiots, and they would sell you whatever weapon system you wanted. If you wanted a carrier, they'd sell it to you. If you wanted a dread, they'd sell it to you. Fax didn't exist then.
They were the United States of EU.
If you had some green Iskies, they would sell you a super. And most of PL's fleet came from them. What would become PL's fleet and everything like that. They sold them, and then PL invaded and destroyed them, which is funny since Northern Coalition dot today has a really tight working relationship with Pandemic Legion, right? Because Pandemic Horde came later. Pandemic Legion was too small to be meat shield kind of thing. That's why they've created Pandemic Horde. Horde was the meat shields to Pandemic Legion. You can kind of make a case they still are until, interesting what happened a few weeks ago. Shame on that one. Anyways, so that's where that came from.
I have to drop you. All have a great day.
All right, see you later, man. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
So it spiked up to 22 to 24%, so a month after install. I could totally see that because this is for the index in the system. I mean, we told everybody for over a week, hey, if you've got a BPO that you want to research, make sure it's here. Make sure it's in this. We're going to trigger it. And the index, for those of you guys who don't know, is calculated on an hourly basis ish. There's some CCP fuzzy math on that, but it's basically calculated every hour. So for about an hour after we sent the ping, it said go nuts. The index in the system was 0. And then when it hit that 1 hour mark, it was not 0. Okay, I usually try to keep these to an hour to 90 minutes. We've been going about 80 minutes now, so we'll do maybe 10 or so more minutes. Do we have any other question, story time, prompt? I'm going to go through Fleet and make sure I got everything, but I think I did. Oh, this is actually something that was brought up with it too. We were actually talking about it yesterday in space meetings. I don't remember if we said this on the Fireside or if it was just space meetings. But one of the big changes that we've noticed from us looking at you all, the line, is having beehive staging and the main combat staging in the same system has dramatically improved not only you guys doing your ratting, but fleet response times, having split staging. We never really liked that, but we kind of had to do it with the geography of the area we were in. That was one of the big draws to CJ, was how many systems were in Super/Titan range. So we have noticed a
God, this is
huge
so good.
change. Yeah, go ahead, Froze.
This is so good. Just having everything in the same system again.
Yeah, it was super nice. And that was a big draw to why we selected CJ as the home, is that the jump ranges were so good in CJ. The other system we looked at, the number of systems in it was fairly close, but it was lower. And so the decision was like, okay, if we do CJ, we do pick up some extra systems, and that's why we went that way. Because we actually talked about doing a split staging in the new one as well, and everybody hated that plan. And the new space is so geographically compact, right? If you look at Dotland, you can't see, guys. If you look at Dotland, you go and look at Delve, and then you look at Immensity, you look at on Dotland, you can't see how close those systems actually are together. GARPA, if you have that, it's also called GTS. Does it, and the in-game map obviously will show that as well, but you can see that our current space is very close in terms of jump ranges, and Delve, it was not. It wasn't horrible, but they've compressed it down in the new area that we're in. Yeah, single stage. I am too. I love it. It makes it so much easier for me because I deal with the red loot buyback program, and I used to have to jump down to oh my god, I forgot the beehive staging. Was it JK? Whatever that was. I had to jump down there.
YJ.
YJ, thank you. I had to jump down there, get it, then jump back to ULX. So you had to go through ULX to get to where we would sell it. So I'd have to jump down there, get it, come back, switch alts to save blue timer, and then jump out. Oh, are we allowed to say what option 2 was? Do you mean the other proposed staging system out here? Like, so not CJ, but the other one? Is that what you mean? I don't care. It's not classified, but I honestly don't remember what it was because we fairly rapidly identified that CJ would be it. The main question was which region did we want it to be in? And so when we picked In Some Other, CJ was basically the system, and In Some Other, we were looking at a couple other regions, but it was like, okay, In Some Other's there. Do we want to put it on the border of In Some Other? Do we want to put it in the center? You know, eastern border, northern border, that kind of a thing. And that's when we all said, okay, well, let's pick a spot and look at the jump ranges. And so it was, if we put it here, how many systems are in jump range here? If we move it over here, jump range over here. Move it over here, jump range over here. And the other piece too is the idea of the workforce and the power to be able to do upgrades. So that restricted where we could put it. 5 years ago, before all that stuff existed, we would have had more options in that sense. But when we've got the workforce that we need to be able to move for things like jump bridges, Sino beacons, all those kind of things. That restricts the number of systems as well, because we wanted to make sure that there was a jump bridge in the staging system itself, and not all systems can support that anymore. Saves a bunch on logistics fuel as well. Yeah, it does. Is the Goon Cannon Sig active? Can you? So can any member paying for a Goon Cannon? The answer is no, with a however on that, as usually is the case. Does a SIG exist? Yes, it does. Can any random person ping it? No, only certain of us have roles to be able to ping that group. However, on like your Corp Discord, there might be a channel that you could join to ask for a ping within your Corp members. So kind of. For your Corp, I do not know. Like I know in Karma Fleet, we do have a channel for that. We've got a Discord channel for bridges. I think we actually call it the Goon Cannon channel or something like that. But I just don't know on your Corp there, man. And I get you absolutely there. Oh, Bane, is that from you? Did you get that created? Neat. That's cool. Bane's in Karma Fleet. He's taking credit for the Goon Cannon channel. Yeah, could totally be. I remember when it appeared one day because we were talking about it. Didn't realize you had done that. Yeah. So Internet Man, it's the unfortunate answer. Technically, is no. We used to have a channel on Jabber called Move Me. Literally, the words "Move Me" that we used during big move operations, right? So that you would say, oh, well, I've got these ships that I need to move. And somebody would be like, oh, I've got some space in my carrier to do that. Those channels outside of big move ops are not just used like that. That's a really interesting one. I'm going to try and noodle on that, see if I can come up with something with that. Yeah, so Bane, he's talking more about offering to be able to bridge people rather than needing one himself. Yeah, I don't have a good way to do that, man. So there is a ping target to it, but you have to have like FC command roles to be able to ping the bridge group. But yeah, that group is still active. Yes, it's funny. It's got a couple of different names to it. I don't remember what it's called now. What is that ping target called?
Isn't it still Goon Cannon?
I think it is. I remember the older name for it, and I said to somebody the other day, and they're like, "Oh my god, dude, we don't call it that anymore." I'm like, "All right, sorry." Because the old name for it, I kid you not, was called Bridge Bitches, but apparently that got renamed at some point, and nobody told me until like 3 weeks ago or something like that, and I said that, and Sniper's like, "Dude, no, we don't call it that anymore." I think that alias still works, but oh yeah, I'm still calling it.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. Do I think Super Cat prices will continue to come down, or is 7,200 going to be the standard for a while? That's an excellent question there, man. And the honest answer is, I do think they're going to be in flux a little bit. The big one, right? You got T1 minerals go into Super Caps and Caps. But the biggest single price point is this weird random item that drops. It's like this loot drop thing that you've got to get. And that makes a pretty substantial amount of the price to it. I don't remember what the fraction of that price is, but there's this one weird little item that you got to get in low sec, if I recall correctly on these. And so that is a bigger determinant right now. And so for those to really come down, CCP's got to tweak the drop rate on that. As was just mentioned there, if pyrite comes down, cap prices should reduce a bit as well. Yes, pyrite is used in them. Pyrite is expensive right now. As the R4 moon fracs begin to truly come online, right, and we just started those not that long ago, so we still got a few weeks before those really hit their stride. Max fracs for you guys who have never had to deal with this is 56 days, so it's 8 weeks. We just gave the green light to AltCorps, to basically everybody to drop on any free-for-all moon that you want. Just about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we just started doing that, I think. So when we did that, I was talking to Sniper in space meetings about it, and he told me that within like the first 2 days, like 100 Athenors have been dropped on those moons, on R4 and R8 moons. You get pyrite from R4s. Well, it's pyrite's found on R4s in this weird thing. CCP did it to make the moons more valuable, and it kind of worked, but yeah, it's been an issue with it. So the final answer to that question there, man, is will they come down? I think so. Will they come down a huge amount? Probably not. I'm not real happy with the price of the supers and Titans. I think it's too high. I'm not sure where I would want them. We're not going to go back to the old Delve time unit days where you could get a super for under 10 and a Titan for under 40. That's not going to happen. If we could cut them 10, 15, 20%, I think that'd be great. But that's just not going to happen back to the old Delve time unit. CCP has said no. What is advanced Doomsday skill on the skill planner? Well, because it really helps your damage on your Doomsday on your Titan. Oh, it's not in there? Well, oh, that's interesting. That was supposed to be set up as a bare minimum requirement for it. What is the Delve time unit? It's called the DTU. This is during what's more people call the Rorqual era. So this is we had moved to Delve, and it is a piece to where we were just abusing the hell out of Rorquals. They were fantastic ships for mining, right? Panic was a thing then. The excavator drones were just insane. And so we were producing, and I don't mean Eve as a whole, but it did apply to Eve as a whole. But the DTU was specifically for goons and the Imperium in Delve. We're producing so much ore, so many minerals, so much goo, so much whatever it is, that prices of capitals were less than $1 billion ISK. You get a carrier and a dreadnought for less than $1 billion ISK. Supers were under 10. Titans were under 40. And that's what the Delve time unit was. There was an infographic that somebody made. I don't remember if it came from Minicom. Sorry, not Minicom, but Minitrue, or just some random person made it. But it showed that how long it would take for us in Delve to replace a specific ship. And we were producing so many minerals, so much stuff. This wasn't even ratting, guys. This was really just like the minerals and the isotopes and things like that. It was crazy. You could replace yep. Let me see if that's the same link.
I think it's the one.
Yeah, we pull it up, see if that's the same infographic. Yep, that's the same infographic. So for those of you who are in the fleet right now, the thing that just got put in, that is the Delve time unit right there. And basically what it worked out to be is that you could replace a super in an hour. You could replace a Titan in 4 hours of output. Now, that was a cumulative kind of an output. It was like everything together would replace like one super in an hour, a Titan in 4 hours. It wasn't talking about an individual person. But yeah, that's what it was.
For the people not in fleet, I've also posted it in the Gooniversity channel and the Gooniversity Discord.
And then Sonra just put in so Ferris put in a link for the Reddit thing, and it's totally fine. It's there. Sonra just put in the link for the Imgur file itself. It's the same piece. Now that did include also ratting. We were doing a huge amount of ratting and stuff like that. But when most people talk about the Delve time unit and they talk about the Rorqual era, they did occur together. So the Rorqual era is talking specifically about mining, whether it's aura mining or moon mining, doesn't matter. Ice mining, right? That's Rorqual era is talking about that, but the Delve time unit occurred then as well.
Yeah, I my first Rorqual pilot, I injected into that because it was valuable enough to do so. I spent about 42 billion ISK on injectors, and then they nerfed Rorquals 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I had something very similar to that. I had a Rorqual. I was training like 3 or 4 more alts into Rorquals, and I was getting to the point to where like I could do it, and so I didn't burn injectors like that, but I was super close. I was a couple of weeks away from buying several more Rorquals.
I'm not disappointed though. It's still a very useful ship. For ice mining, they're still fantastic.
Yeah,
Like the thing
primary
back in
use
the
for it is
day.
ice mining. Oh, sorry, Faros, what was that?
I'm sorry, Ranger. Like the thing back in the day was a Rorqual would make like 300 to 400 million ISK an hour, and a pilot would be like 50 billion ISK, ship included. So the first character would take you 100 hours to mine for, and then you would have 2, so it would take you 50 hours. There were people literally injecting Rorquals on a daily basis.
Yeah, it had a very exponential curve to it like that, because you could just and you would sit there with the belts, and these are the old ore belts too, that CCP got rid of, and so it wasn't unlimited ore, but it was close enough. You would deplete the belt, you would cycle your Rorquals down, and then you would warp your Rorquals to the next belt in the system, right? You'd go like from Moon 1, Belt 1 to Moon 2, Belt 2, or whatever it was, the organization in the system that you were in. Every system was a little different. And you do it again, and you could just smash that. Then the next day, right, they would repopulate. Downtime, all that ore would respawn, and you do it again.
Yeah, were the old like sovereignty belts, the enormous belt. Was it small, medium, large, enormous, and another one?
Colossal. Yeah, Colossal is the other one.
And the old Spodzilla.
Oh yeah,
God.
Spodzilla. So this is where I forgot about this. This is where the Spod rule came from, because Spodamane was this rock, and it was worth almost nothing, but it was huge. There was a huge, usually a rock, this one just massive, just fuck you rock of Spodamane in these belts. And so the Spod rule came into being of you cannot mine anything else in that belt until the Spod is dead, because people were just leaving Spod. Now, if you've got there's 2 kinds of belts. There were the asteroid belts. We didn't have the rule for this, but the cyclable ones, the ones that came from iHub upgrades. That's what we were just talking about. The small, medium, large, colossal, enormous. Did that in the wrong order, but whatever. Those, if you didn't mine everything out of it, they wouldn't reset. The normal ratting mining belts would, and this is where you hear people talk about belt rats. That's what this was. It's just a field. They were a little bit smaller, but the Spod rule didn't really apply to them because there was usually multiples of them in a system, and they would reset every downtime. Didn't matter whether they were mined out or not. These other iHub ones, it did. That did actually matter, and so that's where the Spod rule came from. And the most famous enforcer of the Spod rule was the then and still current head of TNT, which is Wibla. And he used to doomsday Rorquals for breaking the Spod rule. Yeah, Wibla
Trust
used to
me,
do it
Bane.
quite a bit.
Wibla would be chomping at the bits to do that.
Yeah, he's Back then, it was super easy to tell because there's like you would get into the belt, and not only could you see the spodumene on the overview, but you could actually like look at the belt just on your screen, and there would just be this one rock that was like 1,000 times bigger than all of the others, not the spodumene rock. They were super easy to spot. And the funniest part is that ore was worth like nothing. The value on spodumene ore was nothing. When we get to Vietnam a few years later, if you had kept that ore, like a trillionaire. That ore ended up having a really, really high value because of the minerals that it contained at that point in time. But people would just mine it and like jet can it and throw it away. Like nobody kept that old spodumene
Was-
because you had so much of it.
Was that value difference in any way related to the redistribution of the ores?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and that's why it became so valuable. If you had the old spodumene stuff with it, because I can't remember what they tweaked. They tweaked something in the refining, so it's not that the ore itself became more valuable. They changed the minerals that were in that ore. They tweaked the values on them.
Okay. Because there was at some point while I was away that I think they moved a bunch of ore into low sec that wasn't there before and pulled it out of null and high sec.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, they did a whole bunch of that tweaking. They also changed like the refining pieces with it. But yeah, so if you kept that spodumene, if you still had that, crazy amount of money that was worth. And again, like nobody did because nobody cared. Everybody's just like, whatever. I've got, you know, 5 overflow stacks of spodumene, and it's just like right click trash. Nobody gave a shit. And then
Wasn't
it
that
turned out
Dark
to be
Orchard?
hugely valuable later. Yeah, Duck, what's up, man?
Wasn't it dark something, not spod?
So Dark Ochre did that too. We had a Dark Ochre
Oh,
rule. We had a
okay.
spodumene rule as well. We had both.
That's right.
Because they were the same. So one rule went into place, and then they changed it, and then it's like, oh, okay, we won't. We don't need that anymore, and then it became the new one. So yeah, we did have a Dark Ochre rule for a while, and we had a spodumene rule for a while. And for right now, we don't have either one of those because we don't like making those kind of rules. And so that's usually the point that we say on the fireside of like, hey, fix your shit because we don't want to make this rule. Because generally the rule penalty on that is usually somebody's ship getting blown up. All right, we ended up going a little longer than I originally expected, so we'll do one final thing there. You guys want any more questions on that? When will procurement join these talks? I do a little bit of procurement history and things like that on these every now and then when somebody asks. Yeah, that's my answer. Never and always. I should find another guest director to throw underneath that bus. The last one I did was Vintage. We did fitting one. Did one with Kaz doing finance stuff, and I did one with Shingley for CD. I should grab somebody else and do another one of these. Maybe I'll get Delta and we'll do a GSOL one.
There you go.
That might be a good one. Can normal Goon members buy materials from the Alliance, like buying minerals and stuff from Locust? So the answer to that is no. We don't really do that. The like minerals, we don't really do that. There used to be a Moon Goo thread that the Alliance was doing. Angry. So I was running that program for a while. Angry's been doing it now. I'll admit I have not looked at it. I don't know what's really in there in terms of what they're on offer, but that's the only one that I've got for you on that. But like regular minerals, the Alliance doesn't really collect mineral taxes like that. It's Moon Goo. And that thread would be the one it was in either S-Mart or Home Economics. I don't know the exact section that one's in. It should have my name on it as having created the thread, but Angry's the one that's actually running that program right now. Speaking of locusts, by the way, the first set of locust moons are starting to come up here in a couple of weeks. First week of
There are,
October, I think it is.
yeah, the big moons are planned for October, first weekend, but there are some public moons sporadically popping up. They're informed in the Discord.
Yeah. So I remember a few years ago on New Year's, Multi Alliance leaders had a talk on what they did. That was very interesting. I created that. That was actually my thing that I did. I'm glad you liked it. We've done it more than once, but yeah, that was my thing. I did the first one of those where I called it Meet the Directors, and we did a gate camp. We sat in Delve. I think we did it in T5Z. Maybe it was DW. Might have been the DW T5Z gate. And yeah, I did it back then. I was chair of classes for University, and I wanted a chance to get the directors on comms to be able to meet people. This is before Vietnam. And so, yeah, I did that first one of those when we went through like 2 heads of University through Vietnam and did all that kind of stuff. So we did another one of these last Christmas, I want to say, and then the Christmas before that. So we've done a couple of them. Because mostly I look at university directors and I'm say, do another one of these. And they're like, okay. Because everybody seemed to enjoy it. But we usually do them around the Christmas holidays where it's a little bit calmer and chiller with that. I have those, the original one that I did, which is like 6.5 hours long or some ridiculous thing like that. I've got it in the University. It's linked in there where I post all of these to YouTube. If you want to go back and listen to the original one of those from quite a number of years ago, it's up actually on my YouTube channel where I post all these recordings. But yeah, we were sitting gate camping some gate for hours and hours and hours. This is a good question, kind of to round out our day on. Do you think we're going to suffer from success, seeing how Horde is managing the war? Who would want to fight us in big scale? So the 2 biggest groups in Eve right now that are not the Imperium is Horde and its associated kind of powers, and then Frat and their associated powers. Really Eve has become kind of a trilateral split where you've got Horde and Frat have historically had a fairly close relationship like that. Is that still going to be the case tomorrow or next week or next year? I don't know. They are separate right now. They have been shooting each other a little bit. My thought when they actually did that breakup months ago is that, if we were to just invade Horde tomorrow, Frat's going to be right there. Like, is Frat going to be invading them? I doubt it. I don't think they would. I think they would blew up again and shoot the evil Goonies. So there is that 3, right? There's 3 groups with that. The main problem between us and Frat is that we operate in 2 different time zones. So while we can send fleets in and kind of annoy each other, there's not a whole lot we can really do against Frat. There's not a whole lot Frat can really do against us. Like structure, solve, major scale, because our time zones don't overlap. But our time zone as the Imperium does overlap with Hordes. And so that's easier, right, for us to prosecute a war against them and hit them with more than just, roaming fleets going in and tackling ratters and things like that. That's all really we could do to FRT or FRT could do to us is, go against off time zone ratters from our perspective, right? FRT is primarily Chinese time zone, and ours is either Euro or US time zone. So there's no real overlap in that kind of fight for it. But Asher has said for quite a while, Hubris is a big thing. We constantly remind him of that. He reminds us of that within the leadership team. Like we say it to each other. We actually said it to each other yesterday in our space meetings. Can't remember if he said it. I don't think he did actually at the fireside because he had to go and watch hand egg ball, which I say just to annoy him. But you know, he wanted to go and watch the college games yesterday here in the U.S. But we for sure said it in our space meetings with the command team and with Ilum and everything like that. Of we got to make sure that we don't, you know, get into the trap that you're literally describing there, because it is a risk. It absolutely is. Should Horde like fall and disintegrate into a whole bunch of smaller entities? We don't want to live in drones. I lived in drones years ago. I used to live in Owasso. Drones is not that great. It was back then. It was a lot cooler back then. Sure. So DC is in that time frame as well. The next question there was, didn't DC have a cap fight with Frat a few days ago? So DC is in that time frame, and so you know, is that a risk for them? Yes. Here's the solution to that. Let's say that Frat invaded DC. They won't, but let's just say that they did. All DC does is they flip all of their SOV timers to USTZ, and nothing Frat can do about it. That's what's going to happen, because that's exactly what Horde did the last time we attacked them. They switched all of their timers to CNTZ so that Frat could defend them, where our CNTZ is really weak. Horde CNTZ is terribly weak. And so that's what you would do. You just switch the SOV timers. Now, it takes a while for those to reset, so you're not going to do it on a whim, but that's how you do it. So, you know, if it really came down to it, if Horde really wanted to attack DC, we would sit down with DC's leadership and we'd be like, hey guys, flip all of your SOV to USTZ or EUTZ, whatever would be the thing. And then they can't, you know, you're going to take a couple of weeks for that to reset. It's going to suck, but once it does, there's nothing they can do about it. Yeah, Kelly, I like that. So, I mean, we have a pretty liberal use of caps. Supers and Titans is different. Those are strategic assets. Dreadnoughts, carriers, faxes, we're a little more liberal on there. You know, you use it, you lose it. We might laugh at you if you did something really fucking stupid. But
Been
that's
there.
about the extent of it. You know, we also might say, all right, man, that was so stupid, but I love it. You know, it's like doing a Haw dread on a gate. You know, it's like, okay, why do you have a Haw Phoenix sitting on this gate? And Kelly, you're saying, and you're like, well, because I wanted to, and fuck those guys. I'm like, all right, fair play, man. You know, you're not going to get any SRP for it, but it's your dreadnought. You know, that's the thing. And when you do all those kind of things, it can be a lot of fun. You know, you could be doing it as bait, and you'd be like, hey, you know, we wanted to do this as bait because we knew these other guys were over here, and we had a response ready for it. Didn't work. Dreadnought died. All right, get a new one. It's like, did work. We smashed them. Dreadnought still died, but we killed like, I don't know, 20 billion of them or whatever it is. You know, that's the other piece too. Your kill boards don't matter. We don't give a shit about your kill boards. Kill boards tell us who's active. That's what we care about. Like, are you actually out there doing something and you lose? So, oh, okay, well, you lost. Well, in order to lose, right, in principle, you had to be undocked out on the field doing something. So being active is what matters more to us in terms of kill boards than like your kill board green. We truly don't care. Nobody gives a shit. We don't. Some people do. You know, I'm sure there are people in GSF who really care that their kill board is green. The Directorate does not. We don't give a shit at all. Give me 1 second. Somebody messaged me here. Let me see what that was. This is not. This is a good question here to end it up as well. So the question is coming through is at the end of Vietnam. Again, a lot of people call it World War B2. Some people just call it World War B. We called it Vietnam, but it's the war there in 2020 into 21. Actually, let's call it good. Go on that ping there from Arcadios with it. We went a little bit over on there. So go pew pew with Arcadios, and I'll see you guys in a couple months when I do another one of these. Have a good day, guys.
Thanks, Ranger.
Yep. Cheerio, everybody. Have a good one.